Hello, you're watching Proactive London. I'm joined by Sean Smith, the CEO of Eden Research. Sean, Spain has approved Mevalone or Aral for more crops and fungal pathogens. So good news for the company.
It's fantastic news, and good morning, Stephen. It's nice to see you again. This is long-awaited news, and as folks that follow our story will recognize, regulatory authorization is all important to us in terms of growing our addressable market. So it's most welcome news.
So tell us more about Mevalone or Aral, as it's called in Spain, and what it does for crops, what the benefits are.
Yeah, so when we launched Aral in Spain in 2016, we were initially targeting one fungal pathogen on grapes, so both table and wine grapes, and we've been quite successful with that product. However, as you'll recognize, targeting one disease on one crop limits your market somewhat. So we've been working very, very hard to actually expand that addressable market, and in 2021, we're able to expand it to include a whole list of new crops, primarily horticultural crops. So, for example, berries, some lettuce products, cucurbits or cucumbers, squash, tomatoes, etc. In all of these crops, what we're doing is we're tackling fungal disease. And increasingly, we're tackling a broader and broader range of fungal disease. So now, not only do we have a disease called botrytis on the label, but we also have diseases on there. For example, much bigger disease targets like powdery mildew is a great example, or for example, rust, which we see in a number of different crops, or something called sclerotinia, which all of you will recognize as the kind of blackish slime that grows on lettuce.
So with this latest regulatory approval, Sean, do you now cover the universe of crops in Spain? Are there more to tackle?
We're getting pretty close. You never say everything, but we're getting very close to everything. So there's a very substantial list of new crops, some of which are really important crops, some of which are much smaller crops. But to give you a really good example, we're now able to treat almonds for two different diseases. Almonds are actually quite a significant crop in Spain. In fact, I think they're the third largest tree crop grown in Spain behind olives and grapes. So it's a really substantial opportunity. And as you might imagine, almond trees are quite big, so there's quite a lot of volume associated with this. It represents an opportunity as well for us to expand beyond Spain with our regulatory authorizations. It's a fairly conservative industry. So what our counterparts in other countries want to know is where's the product being sold, what's it being sold for, and that gives them the confidence to go after new regulatory approvals in additional countries.
So with these additional crops added, Sean, when would you expect to start to see the financial benefits of that?
Yeah, more than likely that we'll start to really see that in earnest in 2025. This has happened fairly late in the season. And so although there may be some upside benefit in 24, the real growth will start in 2025 and beyond. And we see this contributing, just to kind of get into some very round numbers, because it's very early in the process to comment in detail about this. But we are looking at growth year over year, from directly as a consequence of this label extension, being in Spain roughly 20-25% year over year for Spain. So more on that as we get more details about how the season is going next year and how these new uses are being adopted. But we're quite optimistic about it, and this really does fuel future growth.
What's the rest of the business looking like in the meantime, Sean?
Good. We've had a good start to the year. We're still, as those who follow the story will know, it's quite a seasonal business. And so it's very, very difficult to get a balanced view on how the overall year is going to look. But let's say we're pleased with the progress we've made in the first half. We do still see the industry suffering from an excess of inventory, but that seems to be coming down. In some territories, we've had some quite favorable conditions from our perspective, not necessarily from the farmer's perspective, but from the potential for the emergence of disease. We've seen some regions across Europe where there's been quite a lot of rainfall, and in general, that can prompt additional use of our products. So we're vaguely positive about it at this stage. We'll know a lot more at the end of the current growing season as we look at inventories and how the post-season selling period will develop.
Well, I hope you'll keep us posted on any progress. Sean, thank you very much for speaking with us today.
Great. Thanks for your interest.
That's Sean Smith, the CEO of Eden Research. you.